Good morning and welcome everyone back to another live session of Franchising with Farser. Joining us today is Richard McIver, who is the CEO of Cash Converters. And today we're going to be talking about business efficiencies and surviving the pandemic and what can we do and what can we learn from the experiences that Cash Converters have had to adapt and change with regards to business efficiencies and surviving the lockdown. So just to give you a bit of background, Cash Converters provides hundreds of entrepreneurially minded people with the infrastructure to become financially independent and thriving business owners. The Cash Converters franchise has a successful track record of more than 25 years of operation in Southern Africa and over 30 years globally. Cash Converters franchise offering is designed to thrive in any economic climate. Their three-stream revenue model creates 3 times the opportunity for their franchisees to generate profit and build sustainable wealth. So hello, Richard, and thank you for joining us today.
Morning, Ravani. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's good to be able to chat through this topic, which is clearly quite top of mind for everybody.
It absolutely is. And I tell you what, and just to ask everybody out there, if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to pop them in the comment box below. Also, just shout out and give us a hi. Also, share this with people who you may find this would be useful to them. Perhaps someone is looking to start a business. Perhaps someone's busy looking into buying a business. This information could be helpful to them. So tell us a little bit about business efficiencies and what that looks like, Richard, because I don't think everybody really always gets what that means in a nutshell.
Okay. I think at a very high level, what we're talking about is how to do more with less. That's in my world a very simple definition of business efficiencies. But I think it's also important for us to try and contextualize how that fits into effectiveness. So there are 2 different things, efficiencies and effectiveness. Effectiveness is the achievement of a predetermined goal. So as an example, if I'm broadcasting from Johannesburg in my home and I want to go to Cape Town, I get in my car and I drive to Cape Town. If I arrive at Cape Town, I'm effective because I have delivered on that predetermined goal. Efficiency is about doing that in the least amount of input. So if I drove on the N1 straight to Cape Town, then that's pretty efficient. If I went via George or something like that, it's not that efficient, but I'm still effective. So in the context of COVID and the like, I think, last year we were 3 days into lockdown. And if you push yourself back into that environment now, I think the biggest thing that was important in our lives was the unknown. We didn't know what was going to happen. We thought when we went into lockdown, it was going to be a 2-week exercise and we're out, we're all good. It ended up being the whole of April. And then we stumbled around in May, if you remember correctly, and kind of opened a little bit of the business. And then the rules and the regulations changed. And then we went into the second wave. And now we're looking at the third wave. So what we were doing in that whole process was trying to understand whether our strategy and our business model was still valid in this dramatically moving environment. In fact, we used to joke amongst us, our Exco team, that strategy planning became a weekly cycle. It wasn't a 3-yearly process, it was a weekly cycle. Was our business model still valid? And if so, did we need to change direction or tack or anything like that? But once we realized that Cash Converters was still going to be a valid business model going into the future, we needed to change a couple of things, and it was a few degrees change here or there. We were then knuckling down to say, okay, now, because of all of the unknowns, where do we cut? It was all about, at that point in time, conserving cash, because again, everything was unknown. So conserving cash really talks to efficiencies as well. How do you do more with less? Unfortunately, through that period of time, we ended up having to trim some of our staff. A significant proportion of them were outsourced into a call center by some other organization. Another example of efficiencies, it became clear that when we pushed everybody home and we started out the year, or started out COVID with over 100 head office staff, We were all working from home. We were on Teams or whatever software one needed to digitize and be able to talk both video and audio, and we were quite effective in doing that. And so part of the journey and realization was we didn't need all the space we had at our head office, because what transpired was that we could be a lot more efficient with less office space. And as we've progressed through this 12-month period of time, we've in fact given half of our office space back to our landlord. So we operate on less than or pretty much a half of the footprint we did previously, and so we're being able to be quite efficient that way. So it really, I suppose, in a nutshell, it was about strategy, then efficiency, and I must say that we need to bear in mind as well people support. We're a franchise operation. We've got plus minus 100 franchisees out of there, all in different ages and stages of development of their business. So, the first franchisee I signed in '94 is still with us. He's been with us for 25 plus years. He's made good money over that period of time. He's got a solid balance sheet. And whether he stayed closed for a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, or in fact even a year made no difference to him, because he just opened his doors and carry on. But the flip side of that, we opened stores in 2019, the back end of 2019, and those franchisees were really at risk, because they were, relatively speaking, highly geared. Generally speaking, 50% of their balance sheet was in debt. They just started the business. They may not have been even at break even at that point in time. So you had a whole range of people in different levels of stress. And as a franchisor, you needed to stand up and you needed to lead this process. And so what we did in that exercise was we went into weekly webinars with our franchisees, so around the country. Our exco, all eight of us, talking to our franchisees over and over and over again on a weekly basis. Not that we knew what was going to happen, but at least we had a conversation and a two-way exercise. And then after we'd finished an hour or so on a webinar, it was then incumbent, we broke up the team, and each of us had, let's call it 10 or 15 franchisees that we talked with on a daily basis, just to make sure that they kept focused and that we kept supporting them on an emotional level, because clearly the degree of anxiety through this process was quite significant. But yes, I'd rank it probably strategy, effectiveness, and people and communication and that type of support. So I think I spoke more in the last year than I have in a couple of years prior to that, is just talking over and over again, because in our view, it was really about the mindset of our franchisee as to whether they'd be able to navigate through the storm or not. Those that believed that they could would, and those that believed that they couldn't, then probably wouldn't. And it was our job as a leadership team to ensure that they believed in themselves.
That is so good to hear, because mindset is normally 90% of the battle. So
Yep.
yeah, it's like you say, if people have that mindset of yes, they can, they will, and those who don't often fall behind.
Yep.
So you mentioned, I heard you mention that you did saved a lot on building, say, landlord costs, rental costs. What other practical examples of how you have driven change in your organization did you streamline? Because there's a lot of chaos obviously happening, and
Yes.
and you've now got into a form of a system. Still not sure what to expect, but we know that we have more of a I suppose idea of what's going to happen in the future, because we still don't.
You're right. We still don't. There's a lot more unknowns, and as I said earlier, we've got wave 3 coming. We don't know what that's going to, how that's going to pan out. We have a vaccine, or there are vaccines now created. We're not sure if we have them, and we don't know when we're going to get them. And yes, we don't know what the new normal is really going to look like. But to talk to practical examples, I think. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is distributing our team from a head office environment into a distributed environment. And I think to a large degree, we were very fortunate in a way. And I need to contextualize the answer to this, because in our travels here in Southern Africa specifically, we for the first 20 odd years had no IT capacity within Cash Converters itself. We'd outsourced that functionality or that responsibility, and we had service level agreements with third-party suppliers. So probably around about 2014, 2015, as a management team, we decided that was probably not a great strategic decision going forward, and we decided to in-house that. So we brought on board a CIO, a Chief Information Officer, and we built up capacity within our organization to be able to effectively digitize the business. And long story short, that's proved to be a really, really good decision, because I don't think we would have been able to navigate through this pandemic without having that internal capacity. So I can literally walk down the passage and say to my CIO, we need this done now, without having to beg other people to do something and not maybe be prioritized according to how the business wanted to be prioritized. So the first example of that was distributed working. Within less than a week of announcements in early March, we had the whole team at home working as if they were working from the office. And as it turned out, given our culture and given the type of people that we have working for us, we actually produced more in a distributed environment than we did in a head office environment. We found guys, they weren't traveling to the office anymore, so they were saving an hour or maybe an hour and a half, and literally just walking into a room at home and starting work at 7 o'clock in the morning rather than 8 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes I'd find staff members still emailing me at 8 o'clock at night. So that work from home, and we think that is going to continue in some form. So we went from 100% office to 100% home, and what we've done now at the beginning of this year is default back to the office. But we're still finding that many of our staff are more effective at home, not all the time, but sometimes. So I foresee into the future we're going to have this dual physical environment of work bolted on with the digitization side of things. And then if you talk to what would we do in store, so it really is on a platform of that IT and digitization. So during the course of last year, we launched a web shop. So we see a dual strategy now coming with bricks and mortar and digitization. That web shop, we went live in August of last year, and we're starting to gain some traction with it now. So as an example, Cash Converters International, our colleagues in Australia and New Zealand and the UK are doing probably between 15 and 20% of their retail business online now. And that's a strategy we see we're moving towards. As I said, we're getting nice traction with that now. We also have a facility on our web shop where people can initiate a discussion to begin selling items to us. So it's literally you take a photograph with your cell phone, stick it through, and we'll geo-position where that customer is and send the lead to the nearest store to help that customer. What we also did was we rejigged our internal processing to allow us to ensure that the quality of product coming onto the floor, the pricing, the ensuring that it's working, the accessories and all of that became much more efficient. And in fact, that has been a fantastic technical enhancement, or that we've used the technology to enhance our efficiencies really well over there. And as a consequence, our customers are getting a much better service, and in fact, we've been able to improve our gross profits for our franchisees. Another interesting thing in a franchise environment, as I said earlier, it's a lot about communication. You've got 100 people out there, all working in their own business, but not by themselves. So they need some type of guidance as to where's the business going, what's the strategy. And generally speaking, we'd do an annual conference where we'd get everybody together in the region for a weekend or something, and talk about a strategy and basically have a standard conference. And then we do at least quarterly in every region across the country, where we'd have a day conference with all of our franchisees, as an example, in the Western Cape or KZN or Namibia or wherever it might be. And that exercise would take airplane flights, it would take hotel rooms and food and a whole lot of expense. and a lot of time with our senior management team. In today's world, we do all of this by webinar, and what we're doing at the moment, so let's go back to last year in March, we were doing weekly webinars with our franchisees. Then as we came out of level 1 and went into level 2, we did fortnightly, and now we're into monthly franchise meetings. So we'll do 10 plus franchise meetings a year in a distributed digital environment for an hour and a half each meeting, whereas previously we only managed to see the guys 4 times a year plus 1 national conference. So we're doing double the amount of meetings and communication with our franchisees, and it's not costing us anything besides the time and the preparation. So we don't have to buy airplane tickets, we don't have to fly around the world and do that job. Our franchisees are finding it much more focused, much more efficient. They don't need to leave their stores now because all of our stores are digitized. They can talk via Teams to their colleague store down the road, to us in Johannesburg or wherever it might be. So whether you're a Cash Converter franchisee in Swakopmund or Palabora, you've effectively got access to all of our head office IP as if you were around the corner. And that's the other efficiency that we've brought, is instead of our franchise support consultants going into store, and again, use Palabora as an example. If I'm head office out of Midrand, it takes a day to get there, 2 or 3 days with B&Bs, etc., in terms of a visit. And that's just for 1 or maybe 2 people. Now what I can do is I can webinar into that store with our, let's say, our personal finance center specialists, and they could talk on like we're talking now, on a PC to the operator in that store on really minute technical detail of how to do something about that business. And that has really turned the efficiencies on the head. I mean, I can go on forever because there are a lot of that stuff over here. Maybe just one more, and then we can go on to another discussion. We also launched a couple of years ago an e-learning platform. So it's a software as a service e-learning platform. We've got over 500 items of content on that today, and none of our 1,400 staff around the country are disadvantaged in any way in the context of not being able to access it. They in fact access it off their cell phone. They download the material or the module that they might want to do today in the store. And I've seen some of the guys, when they get in the taxi on the way home, they're doing their e-learning on the way home. So there's just a couple of off the top of my head ideas of efficiencies that we've brought to the business.
I'm hearing, I mean, that's what I've always loved about technology, and that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that because, and I've seen this as well, observed this over the last years. Those that were struggling with technology, that didn't embrace technology, I did find seem to have had a lot more challenges and difficulties. So hearing that you've embraced technology and that you've merged with it quite nicely has kind of benefited Cash Converters in many different ways. Would you say that if you had the scenario, what do you think would have happened had you not implemented some of these systems and these measures that you took?
Yeah, you know, Robiny, I think we would be in dire straits. We would have closed many stores. At worst, we probably would have begun a decline into, dying a slow death. And at best, we may have stagnated. So, in the world today, if we hadn't have shifted and embraced the technology, we literally wouldn't have had a business. And the irony, to some degree, is that we do pretty much what we did 25 years ago. We still buy and sell secondhand TVs, hi-fis, jewelry, sporting goods, binoculars, and cameras. And in fact, when I opened the first store, it was all done on paper, triplicate invoice books with blue carbon paper, and etc. And we fundamentally still do that, but we literally could not do the business at the volume and the speeds and the efficiencies that we do it today without the help of technology. And clearly, a lot of our business also has to do with money lending. So people accessing cash from our environments. And a lot of that has to do with moving money digitally. So we pay our customers onto something we call a Cashies card, which is an FNB e-wallet, branded a Cash Converters Cashies card. And that's done real time off our platform, talking into the banking system. We debit store's bank account and credit the customer's Cashies card in real time. And we wouldn't have the ability to do that without the digital capability. So it's yes, I think at worst we wouldn't be around in 5 years' time if we, maybe even 3 or 2 years' time, if we hadn't had adopted the strategy.
So it's kind of the strong message is clear. Get connected, because as much as you may hate technology, and there's a lot of people that find it very overwhelming, and there's a lot of people that find it challenging, you cannot do without it. It does change your life. It does make improvements. There's a wealth of opportunities. So in any pandemic and any crisis, there's always opportunities to be had.
Yes.
And I would imagine, I mean, I'm just listening at, AJ Diago saying good morning, Mombisa is also saying good morning, and then Eva saying that the digital shift has been one good thing, the digital shift has been one good thing that's come out of this. And I think so, it's also brought people closer together, she's saying. You probably find that you're talking more now than you ever have before. Would you say? Yeah, I think you've said that as well, haven't you?
She's absolutely spot on. And it starts from the point of the anxiety that's been brought about by the COVID pandemic. People are insecure, and you just need to talk and talk and talk and talk some more. And when you think you've got the message across, just say it again once more, just for good luck.
For good measure, yes, for good luck. Because, and I love this work from home balance, because you were talking about that people have been more productive. Yes, there is the danger that people seem to be working a lot longer and a lot harder. But again, it's about bringing balance into your life. You know what I mean? Because it means that if you say worked at 8 o'clock at night, it might mean that you can just maybe take off an hour during the day to do whatever it is that you want. It really is about how you manage your time efficiently and effectively. So yes, I love that. Are you going to be keeping a lot of this in place going forward, of what you've been planning?
So I think yes. I don't think that the adoption of these technologies or a different approach is a COVID pandemic specific issue. But I think they're going to be utilized in different mixes and different percentages. So as an example, the work from home issue, I've already mentioned, we all went from the office to home, and now we were working 100% from home. We've now defaulted to moving back to the office. But as an example, I'm broadcasting to you from my home in Bryanston today, because I've got a couple of things that I needed to get done here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to pick the best out of it and utilize both environments in a way that makes most sense and delivers most effectiveness and efficiency. So use another example for you. Our IT development team, those are very special people, and sometimes they work best in an environment where there are no other people around. And in fact, given the shortage of skills around, sometimes you cannot find them. Our head office is in Midrand. You can't find them within 50 kilometers of Midrand. So as an example, we've got 3 developers sitting in Cape Town, 4 in Midrand, and we've got 1 in Holland. All of them working on our environment, but in distributed literally all around the world. So the technology allows you to do that these days. It increases the ability to bring good quality skills on board that you didn't have the opportunity to do previously. I think in terms of franchising, again, our support into our stores, we're going to use the technology, continue using the technology. When we were in lockdown levels 5 and 4 and 3, we weren't able to get into stores, so we only had the technology. But now we have the technology and the ability to go into stores. So I don't think that we're going to never go and send a franchise support consultant into a store, but we'll do it less going forward, because we've now got the ability to support that store in a technical way that brings us significantly more effectiveness and efficiencies. So,
would you be selling more stuff online as well?
Yes, absolutely. We've got some really interesting ideas as to what we're going to bring. As I mentioned, we've started out our web shop journey. The business, the web shop at the moment is not contributing much from a point of view of numbers, but the rate of growth is significant. We would see 15-20% over the next couple of years contribution from our sales side of things in terms of digitization relative to bricks and mortar. But we're, again, quite a tactile business. So many of our customers actually like going to play with the kit in our stores. But equally, when we talk to our money lending business, because of the technology, we now have the capacity to lend money to people before they don't even need to come into our stores anymore because of the technology. So I think what we're going to end up with is being able to service our customers much more effectively, much more efficiently, and as a consequence, build the business through that digitization channel.
That sounds good. That sounds excellent. And I think, especially when you look at overseas and how online overseas has become, your eBay, your Amazons, those kind of stores, going online is definitely the way forward, especially when you look at where the world is headed in the next 5 to 10 years. Yes. Yeah, so adapting is key.
Maybe give you an example. Sorry to interrupt you over there, but Thursday morning I popped onto the website, our web shop, and one of our stores had just listed a fly fishing reel, which I'd been looking for a long period of time, and it was literally sitting there at half the price I would expect to pay for it new. I was able to buy it off the internet, pay for it off the internet, and have it delivered 2 days later. I mean, it doesn't get more convenient than that. It's fantastic.
Doesn't. I love it. I love online shopping. After being overseas, I can't say that I do love it, because I'm one of those people. I don't mind going out every now and again, but I prefer to not be in amongst a lot of people. Yeah. So yeah, well, that's all we've got time for today. I hope everyone has enjoyed this. Please, just to remind everybody, hit the share button. It helps with the algorithms. It also helps with people that you may know may be interested in a franchise opportunity. So just to remind everybody that FAST is an organization that protects and lobbies and supports ethical franchising across all sectors. So if you want to get hold of Cash Converters and find out what their franchise opportunity is all about, please, I'm going to pop the link in the comment box below for you to be able to click and to share and to send them a message. So I just want to say thank you to Richard McIver for joining us today, and for everyone else there in our audience for joining us today. Thank you for watching, and have a super week further, whatever it is you are doing.
Thank you, Romany. Thank you for the opportunity. Stay safe, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.